Here at the City Council Planning and Zoning Committee today, trying to convince the city that the zoning that they have for the waste transfer dump, as we like to call it, in our neighborhood is inappropriate. And we have a lot of experts in our neighborhood, a lot of really passionate people, and just really, it's nice to get our chance to address City Hall, and hopefully we'll be able to convince them. We'll see.
Absolutely. So this ordinance that is kind of underway right now, where would this site be established?
It's at 340 27th Avenue Northeast. It is literally across the alleyway from Craig's home, from Hans's home, and it is, we feel an inappropriate use.
Excuse me.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. All right, and so there seems to be many violations with this ordinance, so who wants to tell me a little bit about something?
Well, Hans is our zoning expert, so I think she should probably speak to that.
Okay.
The violation, basically, the site is an I2 zoning class that do not allow a transfer station.
Okay.
And both, the voucher program and the household hazardous waste to be built by the county are defined as transfer station. The city wants to include some additional land uses such as recycling, but this does not, it's not, the recycling is allowed as a conditional use. And that's not an automatic right for the city to build a recycling center. It has to go through the process of requesting this through the planning committee and have reason to accept it. It has to be evaluated by the planning committee and by the resident and approved by both.
Absolutely. So this is essentially a waste management that would be established, and they're trying to say that because they're doing some recycling that they should be able to set it up.
Yes, exactly. So there are many issues involved. The recycling issue, and then the transfer station issue. And we don't want either. The neighborhood don't want either. And there are reasons why we don't want this. First, the economic impact on the district, the environmental impact on the district, the health hazard, the lowering of the property value, the loss of business in the northeast. All these are concerns we have.
And is there a specific ordinance that says that the city is not allowed to establish something like this in a residential neighborhood?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an I2 zone, and what they're trying to do is put it in. What they're trying to put there is something that needs to be in an I3 zone. And our councilman Kevin Wright ran on the promise that he wouldn't upzone Northeast Minneapolis, and so we're really concerned that the city is really trying to bring something under the table and change the name of the transfer station into a recycling station. But there is city ordinances, as we gave testimony there today, about what can go into an I2 zone and what can go into an I3 zone.
Right, so it's almost as if they're trying to disguise it as something else.
Yes.
Yeah, they changed their tune after we filed suit. It went from being a waste transfer station to suddenly magically being a recycling center.
No, it's environmental center first.
Environmental center, and then a recycling.
And now we're talking center.
Yeah, and so what they did was they bought a property that wasn't zoned for what they wanted to do with it on the quiet. They spent $1.8 million or something thereabouts, and then didn't consult anybody for the most part, and decided they wanted to put this thing there that wasn't zoned for. And now it's a big cluster or something. And I personally don't want to live next to a garbage facility. The one in South Minneapolis is at least 1,500 feet from the nearest residence. I live 247 feet from this, and I'm relatively far away, compared to these people.
Sir, can I interrupt you and ask, how long have you lived at your current residence?
I bought my house in 2007.
2007?
Yeah.
Okay.
And this isn't like living next to the airport, I was there first.
Right.
And there's been absolutely no offer of any sort of remediation, like giving us better windows or anything like that. The traffic studies that they had on University are predicated on the fact that University is a 4-lane road, but for 6 months out of the year, it's a 2-lane road. Because when they plow it out, it's a 2-lane road. The studies are flawed from the get-go, despite the, and on top of that, the studies were for a solid waste for a solid waste transfer site, not a recycling site.
It wasn't until Hansa really looked into the zoning thing that's when they realized, whoops, there was a big whoops on their part. And when Hansa brought it to the attention, and that's when they renamed it. They started renaming it. So it was because of her and her expertise that we were able to find that little piece, which is what we're building this case on.
The violations,
And
absolutely.
could I speak to one thing? And that's that, there's been a lot of talk of the legalities involved, but there's a political reality in Northeast Minneapolis, and that's that people that live up the hill think that the people that live at the bottom of the hill aren't as good. I mean, they're, like Kevin Reich lives up by Wade Park. He's up on the hill. And there's a sort of a value judgment about where you live. And we live in the poor part of Northeast. And so clearly, they think that putting anything they want there is good for us. And you hear that a lot. Like even little kids will tell you, "Oh, you live down the hill."
I guess the largest concern I have is the health and safety issues, and a lot of the residents that, especially have young children that are living right next to this. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to live there if they put something. It's going to be right in my backyard.
Yeah,
essentially.
your house is going to be worth a plug nickel.
But I think there's some environmental justice issues here too. 40% of the people who live in our neighborhood are renters. And I think back in average income was like $20,000. So it's an environmental justice issue too for us.
And the Hennepin County hazardous waste site in Bloomington and in Brooklyn Park, the closest home is a quarter mile away, and people have dropped off blasting caps there. People have dropped off chemicals. I mean, even when the facility's not open,
Right.
people are dumping their garbage at the entrance. And I work in the Minneapolis Public Schools, and I work with some of these kids that go to those schools are my kids in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't surprise me if they would go over there and get themselves in trouble with that stuff that they would find there. I mean, it would be the perfect place for teenage boys, 14, 15, 16-year-old boys to go rummage around and see what they can find. And if there's blasting caps in there and people are getting rid of stuff they don't even know that's in the garage or their uncle's garage or their dad's garage or something like that, and they just throw stuff in. Well, if the place isn't open, they're not going to bring it back home. They're going to dump it right there. So it's really a safety, issue too, because we have kids coming in and off those railroad tracks. It's right next to the railroad tracks. So they have had the police out at these. They've had to call the police
And
out
the bomb
at these other
squad.
facilities, the bomb squad.
Yeah, with
So-
live ammunition and blasting caps.
So in
Just
a
routine.
perfect world, what do you want to see happen, or what would you like to see happen?
Personally, I
Yeah.
would like to see them take the $20 million or something that they're planning on spending on this site and spending it on the site that's just off of Hiawatha that nobody lives near.
Wow. Okay, that sounds pretty reasonable.
Yeah, I think our opinion is that this facility should be located away from any residence
Yeah.
Absolutely.
and in an I3 zone, not an I2 zone. This is the ideal site.
So it should
And I-
follow the law.
Right, follow the law.
Follow, exactly.
Yeah.
And then this will minimize the cost in legal suits, potential cost that this would bring against the city. Who's gonna pay for these legal suits?
Absolutely.
And it's the taxpayers that are paying for that.
Yeah, I mean, as Mr. Poor pointed out, that the difference between recycled concrete or recyclable concrete and not recyclable concrete is having a roof over it. So why don't they just put a roof over it over on Hiawatha? And part of it is that, what's her name, Ms. Hovenroy, the councilwoman there, doesn't want to have this thing in her backyard, so she figured she could just park it in our backyard. And that's why they're closing down that plant. I have yet to hear a decent explanation as to why the South Hennepin site is inadequate. That, you know, anything that you couldn't just toss some money at and fix.
So obviously this has caused a lot of uproar because they're overstepping their lines and,
Yeah.
you know, disrespecting the law.
Yeah.
And so you guys have formed an organization as a kind of protest. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that?
DDUNDA was for essentially the neighbors that are living right next to this facility.
Don't dump on North
Yeah,
East.
Or any
it's a
residents?
group, yeah, it's kind of it's a lot of different residents get involved at different times, but normally we work every week. About a week ago, we got recognized by the state of Minnesota as a nonprofit corporation.
Good.
So we've been organizing, we've got something like 840 signatures signed opposing this project. We also have 6 different recognized.
Is there a place that we can kind of give a shout out to where people can go to sign? So if anyone sees this video, where
Well,
we
you
can.
know, we have a website, it's www.ddone.org, so ddone.org. And so we've gotten somebody that did a fabulous website. I designed the signs. Just had to throw that out there. We also have a video that I did, a short little video on YouTube, and then it's also on our website. So there's information on how to contact us, where you can go to get, who you can call, and where you can go to get signs, sign the petition.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I think what you guys are doing is absolute. I mean, I commend all of you for standing up and, you know, putting your foot down and standing up for yourselves and for your homes and your neighborhoods and for the law. I mean, obviously, we need to take a stand, so.
We live as close as 10 feet from this. So imagine a recycling center, grinding concrete next to my house. How is this going to affect my family?
And your health and everything.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So,